the biggest game on the biggest stage. No, we're not talking about Fresh Outlook this week. We're talking about the Super Bowl. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Mia Toski. Now, for those of you watching overseas, we tape our show in Somerset, New Jersey. That's about 20 miles or 32 kilometers away from MetLife Stadium. That's where the big game is being played. 111 million people expected to watch. We're going to talk about the hype and the game. And lots of folks are still talking about President Obama's State of the Union address. We're going to break that down with our experts. And we told you we are in New Jersey. Well, a scandal involving our governor, Chris Christie, is heating up. The big question, what did Chris Christie know and when did he know it? And speaking of scandals, you've probably heard about Justin Bieber. Well, he was granted re-entry into the United States Friday, and where did he land? Right here in New Jersey, not too far from our studios. Well, the feds say they detected an odor of marijuana in yet another scandal for the troubled pop star. But before we get to all that, we turn our attention to the Super Bowl. Now, most of the attention on Peyton Manning. There's a lot on the line for Peyton Manning, his legacy, his reputation, his status. Everyone knows the narrative by now. The Denver Broncos quarterback is universally recognized as the most prolific passer in NFL history. Yet he's only won one Super Bowl, and his playoff record is fair at best.
In Rutherford, New Jersey, stands the MetLife Stadium. The game is Sunday, but all this week it's been about the economic benefit to areas surrounding the stadium. The recently gentrified Jersey City houses the teams, and that has brought in fans who are spending cash.
So to have this kind of a major hit for all the businesses in the area, particularly hotels, particularly restaurants, particularly transportation, I mean, it's just a blessing.
Media Day happened at the Prudential Center in Newark, where some 20,000 journalists and thousands of fans descended upon the players. And yes, across the state line, parties in Manhattan. Times Square, dubbed Super Bowl Boulevard, was transformed into a football fun destination. The main attraction, a gigantic slide, a 180-foot tall run.
It's awesome. It's so cool. It's very cool to see this and bring my kids to it, too.
As for security, state police scout the swampland surrounding the stadium. TSA is doing baggage checks for the 15,000 people expected to take transit, and a specialized team of behavioral detection officers are at work. Security includes troopers, private security guards, Coast Guard, choppers armed with night vision. The FBI has called in weapons of mass destruction specialists, and Customs and Border Protection will scan everything entering the stadium. Kickoff is Sunday at 6:30, and if football is not your thing, Puppy Bowl gets underway at 2:30.
And to talk more about the game and the business of the big game, we are joined by former White House aide Dee Benke, Dr. Michael McCoy from Rutgers University, and joining us for the first time is Mark Beal, managing partner of Taylor, the nation's leading sports, entertainment, and lifestyle public relations company. So we thank you so much for joining us the first time here. We've got a newbie here, Dr. McCoy and Dee. So let's put you in the hot seat right away. Let's talk about the marketing. We were looking at everything that's going on with this big game, but give us a little peek behind the scenes and how you lead up to the big Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl it's the Super Bowl of marketing. It truly is. I mean, we hear about the commercials, the $4 million per spot, but it's everything that goes on well beyond that. You've had brands this week. I thought Verizon did a great job. They lit up the Empire State Building every single night, but it was all part of a national social media effort where they involved Twitter and partnered with Twitter on that and asked for fans to vote on which team they thought would win the game. And every night there was a light show on top. So it's not about just the spots in the game. It's about everything that's going on in and around the game, whether that's in the city, whether that's via social media, or whether it's through the advertising.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the stories of the game, because it's the first time being played here in a cold weather stadium. I'm a native New Yorker, born on West 23rd Street, live in New Jersey. I still say the game is in New Jersey, but boy, the marketing around it has said it's
New Jersey has not done a good job because it's all about New York City. It's unfair, but you know, I mean, really, it's all about New York City and Times Square, nobody cares about Jersey.
See, I'm born and bred in New Jersey, so yes, this is in New Jersey. You know, New Jersey has done a good job because the national media is controlled in New York, so therefore New York has publicized this. My feeling is, look, People in New York are always trying to pretend they're from New Jersey. They have envy of New Jersey. They wish they were New Jersey. Look, New Yorkers, sorry.
Nice
try. This is about the Super Bowl.
Sorry, New Yorkers. I know you're jealous of New Jersey. But,
well, Mark, this is certainly a marketing question, how they were able to do this. Sure. But let me ask you a question. When did they start planning for Super Bowl 49? I mean, obviously, you don't know where we know where it's going to be played, but we don't know the teams. But how long do they plan this? Is it a year-long campaign?
Like any other major event, Olympics, World Cup, Super Bowl, city is determined years in advance, several years in advance. So the moment that city selected, the moment New York, New Jersey was selected, the planning started right then. So that process begins 2-3 years in advance, every element of that process.
And well, we were talking about before the show that this is kind of historic because it is the first cold weather game. And actually here in the States, it looks like it's going to be in New Jersey. It's going to be 50 degrees almost. So a lot of people are thrilled about that. But what a marketing nightmare had you had the temperatures we had last year.
Oh, absolutely, and you couldn't have asked for, as you said, 50 degrees tomorrow. Perfect. Actually, ideal conditions for a football game. But it leads to the question of, will they do it again? Will they go to Chicago? Will they go to Boston? And you know what? After this week, they'll sit down and consider that and think about, should we?
But I mean, you said last year, last week. I mean, if this had been last weekend, it would have been awful. I mean, the weather we have had, but we're very, it's very much a blessing that this week, as you said, perfect conditions for anyone out and enjoy what's going to definitely be an awesome game.
I want to talk about the 109 million, I believe it was last year. Ratings were down ever so slightly last year. So, it was something like 2 million, but a lot of people have been talking about that as well, and whether social media is going to certainly help that.
I think so. I think this is going to be a huge year. And, to what you said about New York being the big media market, it does help. And believe me, I feel kind of bad for New Jersey because it's barely mentioned.
Why do you feel bad for us? We're hosting the Super Bowl.
But nobody knows that.
We're excited.
Nobody knows that. It's all about New York. That's my point.
We're excited. We're hosting the Super Bowl.
It's all about Times Square.
Trying to jump in our
Well
bandwagon.
done for trying, but still, everybody sees the slalom going down and in Times Square, and it's really good. And I think it makes it an exciting game. It makes all Americans, I mean, no offense to Indiana, Nebraska, or any of these wonderful states. However, it's exciting. People love New York. They like, all the ads. And actually, I think that's a big part of it because you see that, and it really makes it look like a big party. And being outside, I think it's interesting. I think it'll make people tune in.
I think from a viewership standpoint, to your point, if it actually was snowing, you actually would drive even more viewers.
More viewers. I think it snowed to be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, this is a question about, I'm not sure if you know this, about how they rate how they judge the ratings. I remember last year there was that big blackout. I'm not sure if that helped drive down ratings.
That's right.
The funny thing was, when we were watching it, we paused it because some friends were coming over eating. So I had it on DVR. So we paused it. We were actually able to fast forward through the whole blackout.
Oh.
But I'm guessing that blackout probably drove down ratings. But I agree. This is going to be a great year, and I'm glad for the fans won't be snowing, but it certainly would make for a more interesting home viewership.
Well, Mark, we're talking about the viewership and the commercials, and what is the most expensive commercial this year?
Well, again, the spots they talk about average $4 million. So that's the number they're throwing out there.
Is that for 30 seconds?
That's the number. That's for 30 seconds. That's the number they're throwing out there. Now, there was one brand this week that I thought was very interesting. Esurance. They announced they bought the first spot the second the game ends. The second the game ends. So they're not paying the full rate.
Dollar, right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They've got a big surprise, as they've said. But yeah, so the rate is $4 million. But again, it all varies by first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and where you buy that
Now,
spot.
I know you're in the PR business, so you're probably going to say to one of your clients, "Hey, that's definitely a great price." Do you think it's worth all that money?
I think it always goes back to what's the objective, what's the goal, what are you trying to achieve, right? Obviously, you're going to get a big audience, millions and millions and millions of people watching. You're going to get reviews. You're going to get critiqued based on how the ad ran. So again, I think it goes back to what the true objective is of any brand. And we have a lot of brands. You've got Anheuser-Busch running 4 spots, General Motors running several spots. They've got big ad budgets. And they figured this kind of buy is figured into their ad budget as they plan for the year. So.
Well, I've covered quite a few of the Super Bowls, and I was at Media Day on Tuesday. Okay. So, in terms of local business, what is the estimate that it brings to the local arena, whether it's New Jersey or New York, DD? But what do you think what is the estimate of dollars that it brings? Because it's going to be in Arizona next year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was stories out earlier this week in the Wall Street Journal on the economic impact, and there's numbers floating around in the hundreds of millions, right? No one could quite figure out, okay, how did you come up with those numbers? But you've got to figure hotels, for sure. I mean, hotels, restaurants. Now, where is that being mostly impacted? Is it in New York? Is it in New Jersey? Are most of those folks in
sure
New York
both.
and they're just going to take
Just the
train
area.
over? But I think the area will have a significant impact. But you probably have some businesses that might also not be getting the same impact.
Now, let me ask you a question about the ticket sales, because you can still go onto eBay and you can still buy quite a few tickets.
Correct.
Yeah, you can still
Correct.
get quite a few tickets. If Denver and Seattle, if it was two different markets, if it was San Francisco, do you think we would have seen more people coming out here?
It's funny you talk about the tickets. A two-part on that. I spoke to some ticket brokers early in the week just to get a sense. And it's funny, as the temperature rose, the demand rose. So as early in the week when it was 9 degrees and 8 degrees, the prices actually were coming down.
I'd heard a report that scalpers had actually said this was their worst year ever in terms of trying to scalp
That was
tickets.
Monday. That was
Yeah,
like
it was
last
Monday.
No, and I'll tell you why, because I was up for tickets 3 times. 3 times,
Really?
not to even have to pay for them. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go too cold.
No, I said the
I'm
same
not
thing.
kidding.
I was
How-
offered
and
tickets.
now
I
I'm
didn't wanna
thinking,
go.
now maybe I should have taken them up on that.
right.
Well, because of all the
gonna be a great
security
game.
and because
Yeah.
I just really didn't want to
Sure.
go. I wanted to watch. My father played pro ball, so I wanted
Okay.
to watch the game with him. So that was my choice. But I've gone to Super Bowls before, so. But it's.
I just want to be cold. I mean,
I didn't either. I
sitting
didn't want
out
to be cold either.
Forget it.
But they did say that this was going to. They were going to have quite a few people probably start buying tickets the day of.
Yeah.
Because the temperatures are better and all that, and they're probably going to come down in price. I think the lowest prices were something like $1,700.
Well, through
On eBay.
the secondary ticket market now is a huge business, right? StubHub, other sites, and it's funny. New York Times had a big feature today about the tickets and all the tickets. Only 1% of tickets can the general public really get their hands on initially. You've got a certain percentage to both teams, the other teams, sponsors, etc. But that secondary market now, like today would be an interesting day with the weather predicted to be 50 degrees. Those prices are probably climbing right now for tomorrow.
Interesting. So you're not going to be going. Dee Dee and I aren't going. Dr. McCoy, any chance?
No, I'm hosting a Super Bowl party, so I'm
Oh, there
excited
you go.
about it. But,
Oh, thanks
no
for
one-
inviting us. Great, gosh.
I just did.
Oh, okay.
Well, what else can you tell us about just planning this out for next year and just some of the ceremonies that we're going to be seeing tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's a great combination. It's unique in today's marketplace. We have such a cluttered marketplace, right? So many messages, so much media out there, right? Super Bowl is the one, if not maybe the only one, where actually millions stop. They actually pay attention. They actually tune into the commercials. They actually want to see what are the commercials. Most programming folks are running away to
And many people more the commercials in the game.
Exactly.
Yes,
Many,
absolutely.
many.
So
Well, it's also become sort of a holiday where you becomes, like after the holidays, it becomes like, the gloomy winter. And I think people look forward to seeing people, and it has become a family and friend day.
I've actually was really reflecting on this earlier, that this is sort of the rise of the commercial holiday. Now, a lot of our holidays are commercial, but you see Black Friday overtaking Thanksgiving. Super Bowl Sunday has become, they say 111 million people are going to watch this. You might actually get more people watching the Super Bowl than vote. I mean, it's really
Oh
my
gosh,
gosh.
it'd be sad, but
it's like
that could
you're
happen.
really seeing these just new
it's
holidays
1 in 3
centered
people,
around
yeah.
sort of commercial activity, and it just, you said, Dee Dee, the commercials are becoming just as big as the game.
Many times the game's on, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, no, commercial's coming on. And everybody stops everything, and they run to the TV to see the commercial.
I've
And
got
it
the
seems
big
like Twitter
question now,
mania.
because we're almost out of time for this segment. Who you rooting for? Who's going to win? Dee Dee?
Oh, Peyton Manning all the way. I went to the Denver Broncos party last night. It was great fun. They're all cheering, and they're all excited, and they're going to beat the Seahawks.
Okay, Dr. McCoy.
As a Giants fan, I kind of like that Eli Manning has a little bit over his brother, and I think for that reason, I'm actually sort of rooting for Seattle, just because I sort of want to see, But if Peyton wins, I'm glad he finally gets a second ring. So it could either way.
And how about you?
I think both teams have actually played here this year. They both beat the Giants easily, so
That's a good point,
they've played
yeah.
in this field. I think close game. I think Peyton Manning, to your point, I think at the end he gets his second Super Bowl win.
Is there something better for, not for ratings because people are already going to be tuned in, but in terms of buying some of the materials afterwards, is there marketing post Super Bowl?
Well, again, I think the biggest marketing post Super Bowl, 2 factors. One, you get a great game, a game for the ages, a great game. And 2, is there a player, aside from a Manning, who everyone knows, is there a player that emerges in this game that does something sensational that then, really becomes the centerpiece of marketing post game?
Well,
they're
and
saying one of
says the champs. It actually says that the Broncos are the champs because they have 2 sets. They have to.
Well, they're
Broncos
saying
champs, Seahawks champs.
they're saying it's one of the best defenses and offenses for a Super Bowl
Correct.
game. So
How
Super
about
Bowl
you, Mia?
48. I'm going for Peyton. I've met him
Yay.
before, and I really like him, and I really like his dad too. So there you go.
And brother. Good family.
Keep it here to Fresh Outlook. The president addressed the nation this week in his annual State of the Union address. We'll talk about the highs and lows when we come back.